All right, what is up, guys? Hudson here with another video, and as we all know, Shadowlands is upon us. BFA is coming to an end, and with BFA coming to an end, Ny'alotha as a tier is now nearly finished. We have maybe a month and a half left to raid Ny'alotha, and that brings me, so it makes me a little bit sad. This is my first tier that I rated, somewhat hardcore, I'd say, and it's really since MOP or so, I guess. And I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed Ny'alotha as a tier. Some people maybe thought that certain bosses weren't great. Maybe people thought that N'Zoth was not the best end boss. I kind of agree on that. But just personally, I really did enjoy the tier. And what I want to do now is, heads up, this is going to be a little bit of a freeform video, right? I might ramble a little bit, but I suggest watching this in the background while you do something else. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through my logs and maybe a couple other players' logs and just generally talk about each of the fights, how they've been done, anything about mages specifically for them, any parsing strategies that are unique to the fight, and any just really any cool stuff that I've personally learned fight to fight that kind of applies to mages as well. So I guess we can get started. Let me pull up. Where are we? Yeah, let's pull this bitch up. All right. So I've got my Warcraft logs profile right here. If you're not familiar with Warcraft logs and you raid, you should probably, no matter what level you're raiding, you should probably be logging your fights. You can look up guides for that on how to log your fights and then uploading them to Warcraft logs. And what it does is it creates these parses for you. You can go in and analyze each of your fights pretty heavily. There's a lot of tools on Warcraft logs that I would highly suggest using, and I will probably put out some videos on how to use a lot of these tools once Shadowlands comes out and Castle Nathria is more current content, right? So getting into these bosses, Wrathion for me is a super cool fight, I honestly think. I don't like fights with a lot of downtime like Wrathion because whenever you see these numbers, okay, 108k's not that bad really, but whenever Drest'agath, whenever you don't have a bunch of uptime, right, and you see shit like 90k, whenever on single target alone you could be doing stuff like 137k, it feels bad when you're doing less damage than you could on just pure single target, right? Well, Wrathion I actually like despite that because it's kind of like a battle to get uptime on the boss, and there's unique ways that fire mages specifically in classes with immunities have been able to, and I guess I'm gonna bring up this one. I don't do it in this one, but Toke does, so we're actually I don't even need to bring specifically up Toke. I will go to the replays. Anyway, the way that fire mages found out how to get extra uptime on this boss, this is not the top part strategy anymore, really. Actually, depending on your kill time, it can be. But back around when the corruption vendor was being added, this was the prominent strategy for fire mages to parse. And what you do is, let's play this. I'm gonna fast forward. So we all know how Wrathion works. First phase. You go do this, he flies away, does the burning cataclysm. You can see the cast bar over here, by the way. Does the burning cataclysm. You come back, do another one, and then he goes and does burning cataclysm again. Well, the strategy for mages and classes with immunities is to stay here because you can attack the boss while he's doing burning cataclysm, but if you don't have an immunity, you're just going to die from that wall of flame, right? And if you don't have any other defensives, you might die from lack of heals because of the fire on the ground, but you can avoid that a little bit. And the ticking, actually you don't have the ticking dot at this point, I guess. But the strategy for a while now has been, if you have Lucid Major, you kind of come here. And even if you have World Vein, I guess you could do this too now, because you can sustain yourself while in the fire. But you come here and you combust a boss, right? And then while your Ignite's ticking, right here, you would then Ice Block. And then your Ignite's ticking on the boss and you get a lot more uptime than you would if you had just ran back like I did right there. I still had a relatively good parse, but that's because I did a different parsing strategy. But I thought this was the most unique one on this fight. It wasn't super helpful for progression because you progress super quick on this boss and didn't really have time for strategies like that to become the meta. But I thought that was quite interesting. And it was really fun because it was like kind of risky. Now going through these, Maut and Skittra, pretty boring fights. Maut was kind of cool on progression. It was like the first one that was difficult, right? Because Skittra went down super quick. But it's been so long since Maut's been a challenge that it's kind of like in the back of my head right now. But Maut right now, really all you do to parse on Maut is just kill it hella quick, right? And I don't have that good of a parse on here. I could totally do, like, look at this. I've done 137k on a 237 fight. So I believe a 151 fight I can actually do like 145k or higher on. I just need some good procs because we've only killed it below 2 minutes once. So like the parsing strategy for Maut right now is to kill it before he gets into his stone phase at all. So you just completely ignore that mechanic. And you kite the ads super far out. And don't let them get their casts off. Anyway, Skittra, actually kind of cool. There's no real parsing strategies for this fight, and it doesn't give all-star points. So the thing for Skittra is, like, in pugs now, people are going over to, like, the side, right? People are going over to the side and just completely ignoring the ads that Skittra spawns, which I thought was pretty funny. And, again, it just completely ignores mechanics. There's a lot of ways to ignore mechanics in this instance. Now, Zanesh. So Zanesh actually takes a lot of thought as a fire mage to figure out what is best. I'm actually going to go to the top logs, and where are we rankings? I'm actually going to go to the top logs, and let's literally just click on the top fire mage. So this gets into a pattern. For fire mages, if it's not like pure single target, you're going to want to optimize your combustions around when ads spawn and how you can get the most damage on ads, because that is essentially just extra damage. So how do you do that on Mythic Zanesh? So with Zanesh, whenever the balls spawn, right, and people soak the things and then go and use the ball, like hit the balls, right? Every time the ball is hit by a player, which is going to be 3 times for each set, ads are going to spawn. And generally with the current kill times, you're going to get 2 sets of those 3 ads, right? The ads aren't stacked, the boss gets carried to them, but the best way to actually do this fight then is, because the ads spawn at like 30 seconds and around 2 minutes, right? How do you do that? How do you do that? If combustion takes 2 minutes to like refresh itself, do you run 1 minute combustion? No, you actually run 2 minute combustion, and you start your combustion around 15 to 17 seconds. And then again at 2:15 or 17, and you hope that the ads are still alive in that second set. And most of the time, like the third ad will at least be alive. And hopefully the torments are okay on the ground, so your tank can bring it. But let's check Runestad and check and make sure that he did that. I believe that most top parses, yeah. He started his combust at 16 seconds, and then he got his second combust at 2:17, like as soon as possible. So that is how you parse on Zanesh as a fire mage. Now, I should have just clicked back on my profile. We're coming, what the hell? Open a new tab. Anyway, coming back to my profile. Hivemind, man. So I had like a top 200 whenever this was current, or whenever this parse was current, right? But now we look at it, and you want to weigh the thing for Hivemind, right? Is you want whenever the ads come in, because Hivemind, if you don't know, Hivemind is just a massive ad fight, and there's 2 bosses. A bunch of ads spawn constantly. So the first wave of ads is just a shit ton of small ones that get cleaved down really quick. The idea for parsing here is to just straight up like have your ignite be at its max whenever the ads come in, and then get lucky that your ignite's going to spread before any other fire mages or other people can cleave them down. And that's what happened here. And in order to do that, I think you want to wait 6 seconds into the fight before combusting. I could be mistaken. Yeah, 6 seconds in to get maximum damage. Yeah, and then you combust again whenever the ads come again. That's if you're using 2 minute combustion. You can use 1 minute combustion and get 2 combusts while the bosses are still close together, which is what I do now, honestly. But as we talk about Hivemind, I guess is something to bring up. Parsing on fights that have heavy AoE or cleave are kind of just like bullshit, right? Like you essentially just have to get lucky or just pick someone to parse each week, because there's only so much AoE to go around. There's only so much cleave to go around, and It's kind of bullshit parse on these. That's why Warcraft logs does not have all-star points for Hivemind. And they actually, on Carapace and N'Zoth, they've actually taken away a lot of the DPS on these fights in the logs. So like whenever you see your DPS meter in game and you're doing Carapace or N'Zoth, the actual parse and highest DPS right here will not be reflective of that in-game DPS because they count certain ads as less DPS as others. But we'll get into that. Going down to Shadar. Shadar, I think, is really cool for parsing for fire mages at least, because it's super single target, and it's really nice seeing fire mages up top of single target, because I know that other classes are a lot better at single target, especially ones that utilize infinite stars. But whenever you're a fire mage and you're doing 137k, a lot of times you're higher than even some of those other classes that are better at single target. So it's nice whenever, like, you know, fire mages are dominant in the rest of the, like, every fight that has cleave, right? So of course you're gonna see fire mages up top because they're pretty broken, but whenever you're able to beat players in single target, that feels good, because you're like, all right, I shouldn't be beating them if this were, like, you know, if it were completely even, but you do there. But again, still a problem with single target is that it kind of is proc reliant and kill time reliant. So like, it's not a completely even playing field. And of course, everything's gear reliant as well. So it's not a completely even playing field in terms of like skill. So like a lot of the times, like if you have a bad parse one week, it might not be your skill. You should analyze it and see how you can play better, but sometimes it can just be unlucky, right? But as always, even if you think you're unlucky, you're probably not, and you can probably be playing better. I don't think I've never had a perfect fight. I can almost guarantee you I've never had a perfect fight. So always go into your logs and check that out. Drest'agath right here. I hate Drest'agath, to be honest. I absolutely fucking hate Drest'agath, man. Man. I just think it's a lame fight, and I haven't really looked into parsing this fight too much because the all-star points don't count on this, so I just haven't really tried it. And I don't really have the opportunity to parse on it too much because I don't think we go down here very often anymore. But Drest'agath is just super frustrating, and I'm pretty sure the last time I looked, like months ago, the best strategy for parsing on Drest'agath was combusting, or like just using your damage cooldowns on the damage amplified ads, which is really counter, like, it's, I don't know, you really fuck your raid group if you do that, so I will probably not be doing that to get a parse on there. Plus, you know, not super important, but that is my lowest parse this tier, which I'm completely fine with. I don't really mind. And again, parses don't equate to how good you are, by the way. They show like you're capable of damage, right? But there's more to playing this game than being capable of doing damage. They show that you're able to do damage, but are you able to do mechanics? Are you able to do mechanics reliably? Can you do the balls in Zanesh? Can you kick the soccer ball in on your first try, so your raid group can do it quick and consistently? There's more than just parsing. But this, for me, parsing, I really enjoy metrics, and parsing is about objective of a metric as you can get kind of in World of Warcraft, I'd say. Yeah, I would say it's about as objective of a metric as you can get in World of Warcraft, in terms of skill, right? So that's why a lot of people enjoy looking at these, and that's why I personally enjoy looking at parses. And I just think it's interesting how a lot of these strategies are developed from boss to boss, and looking at them as different bosses and kind of analyzing, oh, well, we have this stuff on clear. How am I going to go in here and completely optimize my damage and try to get a higher rank in this stuff? So going on to Vexiona. Vexiona's, god tier fight for fire mages. Absolutely god tier for fire mages. Heavy cleave fight, and you start with an extra ad as well. So strategy for parsing in this fight, man, I'm 99% certain. So like the strategy for parsing in this fight, you have to get a quick kill time and not let Vexiona go into phase 2 at all. Like she goes into phase 2, not fly up before phase 2, right? So you have to get her, I think it's 40% before Mage, we can check him out because he's EU, so it should be in English. But generally, I think he'll be playing. Let me predict this. He'll be playing Kindling, and he'll get 2 combusts in before she flies up, and she actually won't ever fly up. And this will be like a 230 kill, right? So this is how you do hella high parses on this fight. Yeah, he's playing Minute Combustion, and he combusts at 106 and 05. That's weird. I haven't seen that. 05. I don't know. It's probably timing for when the ads spawn. So the second set of ads spawn right at a specific time. So that's probably just gaming that, and that's how he gets all this damage. Literally over fucking like, that's like 1.25 mil damage on a. Jesus, man. I wonder if he holds his. Wonder if he holds his gladiator's badge. No, he uses it. So that's literally a small combustion right here, and he's doing 1.2 mil. That is absurd, man. But you see the power of fire mages right here. But that is Vexiona for you. In order to parse super well, you pretty much have to do this. Otherwise, you have just otherwise you can just expand this part right here into like an extra minute of her flying up and you doing nothing. So it just lowers your DPS hella. That's why my parse is not super well on there. But my guild is going to try it sometime soon, doing the parse strat. But like I said, we haven't been killing these bosses too reliably. Wrathion, now we've killed Wrathion a lot, but I've tried. The reason my Wrathion parse isn't super good is because I've played Arcane and Frost on it, and I've died on Wrathion from people making mistakes and like giving the group lightning after I've already got the lightning debuff, so then it insta kills you if you don't have cauterize in your fire, right? So then I don't know, it's pretty frustrating. But I tried parsing as fire last week, and this is what I did. I know I can do better, but I actually had to move out of my rune of power because somebody I have both the Vita and the nightmare stuff, so I had to get the nightmare stuff in the second set of orbs. I don't want to go into this, but I had to get the nightmare stuff, so I had to step out of my rune of power because the person was not in the position they were supposed to be. So I put my rune of power anticipating that they were going to be there, and they were not, unfortunately. It's no biggie, really, but it just kind of sucks if you're trying to parse and that happens. But they didn't know that, so it's not their fault. But yeah, so the strategy for Wrathion, like all of these other fights, is essentially just optimizing your cleave. So with Wrathion, whenever you eat the two balls and then you kill the other one, right? Whenever Wrathion eats the balls, he spawns two ads and they come in, and then you're essentially just doing 3 target cleave, and that's when you want to time your combust for if you're going to parse. And there's going to at least be 1 set of orbs, maybe 2, depending on your like kill time and your DPS on boss and stuff. Currently, you can skip that second set of orbs, but like I said, it depends on DPS and whatnot. But I think for DPS, in terms of DPS, it's definitely better to get that second set of orbs in terms of parsing. So if you do get them, you want to time up your first combustion for when those first ads come, and then make sure your second combustion is whenever those second ads are on the boss. And that's essentially how you parse on Wrathion. Now, Il'gynoth. Yeah, Il'gynoth, I really, like you can see, I literally have done Il'gynoth so little since this post-nerf too. Man, we really do not do Il'gynoth much. Going down that hole is tedious, man. But anyway, I guess talking about Il'gynoth, I think Il'gynoth's a cool fight. I also think Wrathion was a really cool fight. I really liked Wrathion because it wasn't super long, but it was challenging and it was fun. It was fun to progress on. Il'gynoth was, I'd say, a little bit less fun to progress on just because of its length, and I don't know, I think it was pretty challenging. And at the time, my old guild was putting me on blood duty as a fire mage. So they literally told me not to attack, and we were doing notice spells. So they told me not to attack the organs, not to attack the boss, just stay on bloods and then just like combust the boss, which I thought was really bad because even the ignite that you get from just fireballs on the boss is, you know, really good. Like, I don't know. I just think fire mages are pretty inefficient at killing blood single targeted. But that's in the past. Anyway, I'm in a new guild and stuff. But Il'gynoth, what I think's really cool about Il'gynoth DPS wise is that you start getting, like, you lost that last phase, right? That last phase when Il'gynoth pops back up and it's just like a straight up burn, and you're probably gonna have combust for it, and you're gonna be a bunch of bloods running around. It's just absolute shit ton of bloods running around. And your ignite spreading to all of them. And your DPS, most fights, you know, your DPS goes down throughout the fight. Well, with this fight, your DPS actually fucking skyrockets at the end. And I think it's really cool. The downsides, though, are that it's kind of a little bit RNG whenever the blood spawn. And personally, for me, I don't know the kill times for this boss anymore because I do it so little. So I don't know exactly when to time my combusts. I just generally try to do it on the boss. And like if the organ's below 50%, I try not to do it on the organ because I feel like my combust will, like, I won't be. You need like at least like 25 seconds for your combust to be full value, because if not, if something dies before then, your combust, like your ignite, it'll die before your ignite gets its full value, which is pretty unfortunate if that happens. Now, where are we? Carapace and N'Zoth. I think these are two, I don't know. I think Carapace is a really cool boss. I think it was a little bit too long, maybe. I don't like the first phase too much, but that second phase and the last phase are really cool. Second phase and last phase are really cool. Now, the current parsing strategy for Carapace is killing it super fast. You want to get it before. So, like, there's the first phase, right? 2 sets of tentacles come down. The first one, you go back to, you start on Carapace, and then the first tentacle comes down. You kill that shit. Or first set of tentacles come down. You kill that shit. Then you go back to Carapace. And then the second set of tentacles come down. And then you go back to Carapace. And then you go into phase 2. Well, if you do enough DPS on Carapace, you can actually get him to go into phase 2 before the second set of tentacles, and you can actually skip that whole like conundrum. And that's actually how you are able to parse in this fight. And one thing to mention before I go into the other phases, Carapace parsing on Warcraft logs, right? The DPS that you get is not reflective of all the AoE you do, and it won't be reflective of the stuff you did in game. I mentioned that a little bit at the beginning, but so really, you're going to want to focus mostly on boss DPS here. Mostly on boss DPS, because the little ads that you get Ignite on is actually not going to count on Warcraft logs. I forget if it counts as like 10% or something, but I don't think it does. I don't think they count them at all. And the other stuff, like on the ground, doesn't count as much. But you'd have to go in and look at like the updates on Warcraft logs to see that specifically. But just generally for this fight, you're going to want to optimize your combusts around doing boss damage. And maybe cleave onto an eye stalk. But again, mostly boss damage, except for phase 2. So whenever you come into phase 2, ideally fire mages, if you're group smart, they're going to put your fire mages on the right side, because they have grouped up like at the end, there's 2 groups of 3 of these cysts right on the wall. And what you're going to do is you're going to, probably be assigned one of the set of cysts, and just combust it. And whenever you combust one of those sets of cysts, your ignite just spreads to all 3, and those are full value, right? So that's whenever the cleave is super important in this fight, is you want to get the cleave on all of those cysts. And it's really nice. You get a lot of DPS from that. We're actually, let's take a look at this parse of mine. Let's take a look at this parse of mine. Yeah, so my highest damage in the entire run and the entire kill was on those cysts right there. Synthesis growths. I don't know why I'm saying cysts. Yeah. So you can see that right there. That is super important. And also during progression, it's super important to get those things killed. It was really tough for my guild, at least during progression, getting those things killed on the right side and then on the left side at the same time. It just took some practice getting them down. And then going to the last phase, you just want to optimize boss damage. Still, you want to get as many combusts in as possible while doing the mechanics. And a couple things for the last phase, if you're progressing still on Carapace, like I guess just like try to make room for your other players, because mages can move around really easily. Also, you can immune the like infinite darkness right at the beginning, and then it saves you a lot of sanity loss. It saves you like 30 sanity loss, because the first tick counts as like 30, but if you immune it, you actually never get that. So that's another tip. And then, like I said, whenever you're spreading out, be the person to go the furthest, because mages have hella mobility. Just make sure to time your shimmers properly for this fight, because that's super important. If you get caught out of place without a shimmer, or like in an infinite darkness without movement, super tough. As a whole, I enjoyed Carapace, I'd say. I think that the worst part about it was whenever you're progressing in just that first phase, just doing that first phase over and over and over again, man, it was super boring for me. And it just felt redundant. And then, you'd get into, it'd be, 2.5 hours into raid, people were dying in the first phase still from like stupid mistakes just because they're tired and shit. Yeah, it's pretty frustrating. All right, on to N'Zoth now. So N'Zoth, man, N'Zoth was kind of suffered the same problems as Carapace, in my opinion. Like, it got super redundant around the beginning, and since it was so scripted, right, it was a little bit boring in that regard. But I think as a whole, I kind of like N'Zoth. Like, sanity mechanic was kind of cool. I didn't kill the boss whenever it was like not nerfed at all, right? I'm super, like I said, I was super new this tier. I'm still learning a lot. And with that said, if you guys have anything that you want to share, anything you think I didn't mention that should be mentioned, please share it in the comments. I'd appreciate it. But getting into N'Zoth, I guess I can't really say too much on the parsing strategies here because it depends on which Psychus you go down on, right? If you go on Psychus 1, it's going to be different than Psychus 2. But for Psychus 2, essentially, like, really your goal should just be, like, this is for every fight, so I feel dumb saying this, but, like, you just want to optimize your combustions, get as many combustions in it as you can, as long as they have some sort of value to them, right? And it's kind of hard to find value in N'Zoth at this point. Like, if you're killing N'Zoth on reclears, your shit, like, the shit's gonna be dying so quick that you almost are like, fuck, I feel like I wasted this combustion, but it's better that you use it a lot of the times than hold on to it for 2 minutes and realize, like, fuck, I didn't use combustion in 2 minutes. And if you don't plan your stuff out, that could easily happen, I'd imagine, at least. But I believe both Psychus 1 and Psychus 2, whenever you guys come out of, like, the Psychus 2, like, whenever Psychus 2 is finished, right? No matter which Psychus you went down on, when Psychus 2 is finished and you have that burn phase on the N'Zoth, generally, what I do is I hold my combust for the first set of Thought Harvesters. And actually, nowadays, I think 2 mages can even do it. But if you have 2 mages combusting those N'Zoth whenever the first 2 Thought Harvesters come up, you can actually get the Thought Harvesters killed. I know you can do it with 3 for sure, and I'm not sure if you can do it with 2 or not, but if you have at least 3, you can 100% get those Thought Harvesters killed before they get their Harvest Thoughts cast off, right? And then that is, like, super big. If you're progressing, that'd actually be insane. Save a lot of sanity. But I think that's, like, a little cool thing that Fire Mages can do in that fight. Super valuable. And then after that, so I guess if you do that combustion, right, then that means you're just set on the same path for the rest of the fight. And generally, what I do is, you can kind of tune out if you're not doing Mythic N'Zoth or don't plan on it. But what I do is I go and I don't usually combust the second set of Thought Harvesters because the tanks aren't close enough to the boss, at least in the strategy we do, because of the Evoke Anguish, in order to get the Ignite on the enemies, right? So I have to wait for the third set of Thought Harvesters to use my next combustion. And then kind of from there, it depends on where the boss's health is at and going down to Secret Phase and the timings for that. But if I'm going down to Secret Phase with a combustion, right, if it's like about to end, right, as we go into Secret Phase, I'll generally combust and have my combustion up for when we come out. And you want to have a combustion for when you come out of Secret Phase if possible, because there's going to be another set of Thought Harvesters, and then you're doing like your push at the end to kill N'Zoth. So that's really what I have to say for that. If you guys seriously have any other strategies for any of these bosses, please let me know. Let me know what you have done to get good parses and stuff like that, really. But as a tier, as a whole, this tier I think has been pretty well. I've enjoyed it a lot. This is what, like, I don't know, this tier is what's brought me back into World of Warcraft, so of course I'm gonna like it. I haven't played other raids that are like recent in years, so I don't have too much to reference in terms of like what, you know, how this compared to like EP or something. From what I understand, people didn't like EP too much because of Ashara and stuff like that. But let me know what you think. Seriously, I'd like to hear some feedback from people that maybe have played a little bit longer than me. And along with that, I guess I'm streaming now. People have been stopping by my stream. I appreciate it. I have a Discord, right? So if you have any questions, oh man, it's my eye. If you have any questions, feel free to hop in the Discord and ask me. I'll probably be doing log reviews. So if you have any logs you want me to review, I'll be doing log reviews coming up into Shadowlands. And I'd like to help people any way possible. If you think I can help you, please let me know. If you have any ideas for videos, please let me know. Yeah, I guess that's really it. So thanks for watching, guys. Take it easy.